Lies you've been told about Christianity. I have gone down the rabbit hole of a lot of different YouTube niches, and this is a channel I find extremely interesting. This is Brian Holdsworth. Okay, he is actually a Catholic creator, and he did a whole video about the lies you've been told about Christianity. Now, at the beginning of this video, he gets into the universities, science, so on and so forth. But here, he starts addressing the Crusades. Now, I might have this timestamp wrong, so we might have to pull it back.
Okay.
He starts getting into the Crusades and how most of what we've been taught about the Crusades is wrong.
Science appeared out of nowhere in spite of the hostility of the most powerful institution in a very powerful continent in Europe, when it couldn't appear anywhere else where this institution did not have that influence, is laughably stupid. The Crusades.
Okay, here we go.
As soon as Christians get a little too uppity or maybe assertive, or especially if they get angry about something in the political field, all anyone has to do is remind us of our role in the Crusades before they tell us to sit down and stay out of politics. For example,
this is very true.
They're like,
people love reminding Christians about the Crusades.
Yeah, how are you going to dunk on Islam if you guys took out thousands?
No,
Well,
not
just
thousands, millions. Go ahead.
Yeah, put some respect on our name.
after the 9/11 attacks by former President Bill Clinton was quick to point out that Christians aren't blameless either, citing the Crusades as a crime against Islam, framed as an imperial conquest of bloodlust and greed.
This is so disingenuous for Clinton to claim and position this way.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Former President Barack Obama said something similar while fielding questions about the Islamic State's brutalities. This isn't a difficult case to make for a generation of people who have been formally trained, myself included, at school and college to revile the history of our ancestors. But let me ask you, how would you describe someone who defends his home against violent intruders? Like, let's say your neighbor had suffered something like
This got really American real fast.
his house ransacked by violent thieves who physically assaulted and abducted members of his family, as well as his possessions. Then when they came again, he was prepared to defend himself and what remained of his family. Would you characterize your neighbor as a physical aggressor or as a violent instigator in this instance? Would you say the trespassers were innocent victims? For the more sane among you, I'm sure you'd agree that were he to use physical force to defend himself in that scenario, it would be an act of defense, and that it would also be fully justified.
It's a good argument.
Hey man, I got it. I still have historical scars from world history in 7th grade or 8th grade, whichever one it was, when I found out. You know, this whole time I'm building a relationship with Constantinople, this beautiful Catholic city with these amazing cathedrals.
What was it about that place that you like so much?
I think we were just learning a lot about it.
Okay.
It was just the part of history we were learning about. And I was like, okay, cool. Like church history.
I want to go there someday.
Yeah, like that sounds cool. That sounds awesome. Like, I can't believe that's still there. That's what I'm thinking, right? And then it's like, yeah, then Islam came in, took over the whole thing, burned the cathedrals down, put up mosques, and now it's not even called Constantinople anymore. It's called Istanbul.
Whoops.
And I was like, the name is dark. It just sounds bad. Bad branding. Sad that they took down the churches. And so now, and so now I feel like I felt defiled, and I'm like, honestly, in that moment, I was like, I get it. Give me some armor.
That's good. That's good. Let's let Brian cook some more.
Well, something like that is going on in the popular understanding of the Crusades, because by the time they were initiated, Muslims had been attacking Christian nations and communities relentlessly for hundreds of years before European Christians staged any kind of military response in the form of the Crusades. By the time the Crusades were called, 2/3 of the Christian world had been conquered by Islamic aggression, including the Holy Land, Egypt, North Africa, and Spain, and they had made several attempts to also conquer France and Italy. And they never stopped. They eventually overthrew the Christian Byzantine Empire and continued to attack Christian nations all the way up to the fall of the Ottoman Empire in the 20th century. Now, did bad things happen during the Crusades? Yes, absolutely. Were those things bad because of the Crusades? Because of some principle of the Crusades? No. They were bad because warfare is a bloody, messy affair. And it's impossible to expect anyone to do it without things getting a little crazy. Conceding that fact doesn't mean that the Crusades weren't justified. They absolutely were. They were defensive war. And if they had never happened, Europe and everyone descended from it, myself included, would likely be Muslim today.
Correction, and Constantinople was Orthodox during the Crusades. So my bad, I said Catholic. Love them both. You're all welcome.
Go ahead.
The Inquisition.
Uh-oh.
When I was in junior high or middle school, our social studies class was given an assignment to research an event from history and then give a presentation to the class about it. And there was a handful of events we could choose from, of which the Spanish Inquisition was one. And I remember a pair of girls choosing that one and using the opportunity to reveal to the class that they were in fact themselves witches, and that they wanted to commemorate the millions of innocent witches who were burned at the stake during the Inquisition.
I wonder if that's something you want to like own publicly. Go ahead.
Which, of course, they were celebrated for their courage of conviction and giving glowing remarks from our teacher. Because after all, everyone knows that the Inquisition was synonymous with extravagant examples of religious persecution, torture, and masochistic executions of the innocent on a scale that rivaled the Holocaust. So maybe the best place to start on this topic is with a very basic fact that is surprising to most people. The Inquisition was not established to hunt down or persecute witches, pagans, Jews, or Muslims. The fact is, it only had jurisdiction over self-identified Christians. Because back then, they didn't have nation states with legal constitutions that define our association as citizens like we have today. So instead, your nation or your community was based on what you held in common, some common creed of which religion was usually intrinsic. So to betray or undermine that common creed was considered something like treason or betrayal of your community. And the problem was, some people would pretend to adhere to the Christian religion while actively undermining it or practicing something contrary behind closed doors.
That sounds like some of our culture today.
Sounds like a lot of our culture today.
In order to gain some benefit from the community, which is obviously exploitative and deleterious to the community. It means you want to extract benefit from the community.
My man CP would parallel this to the chameleons in church today.
Yeah, that's right.
Women who for the streets, and then all of a sudden they come to church and they become church girls.
They need some forgiveness.
Yeah, they need some forgiveness, and then they continue wilding and living crazy while they're in the church.
Yeah, it's not good.
But without ever helping to galvanize it by strengthening the bonds of unity that hold it together. So to be a heretic, which is to be someone who professes Christianity, but does not adhere to the communal faith and practice of the church, it meant that you were someone who was jeopardizing the bonds of your community, bonds based in religion. But because that wasn't all that common, it meant that accusations of heresy were also not uncommon. And it was civil authorities who had the responsibility of meting out judicial punishment for crimes of which heresy was one. But there was a big problem. Your local magistrate wasn't a theologian and had very little ability to determine if someone was in fact a heretic, which as a result meant lots of innocent people were put at risk of false imprisonment or worse if their neighbors accused them of heresy. So the church established the Inquisition.
They're like, you believe in works-based salvation? I don't know, but prison!
And to ensure that that didn't happen, and also that false accusers were dealt with accordingly. Inquisitors were largely motivated by a desire to protect the rights of people and prevent false convictions of heresy. This is confirmed by the fact that they almost always sought correction of someone who might have been confessing or practicing false religious beliefs without even knowing it. The Inquisition would correct them and invite them to repent, which they usually did, and were then reconciled to the church and the community. In cases where they refused to repent, or they were repeat offenders, you might get a conviction, at which point they would be turned over to secular authorities who would then impose a sentence. Now, did you catch that? The Inquisition never executed anyone. They tried them to determine if they were heretics because they were the most competent authorities to make that theological assessment. And then the secular authorities declared what the punishment should be if found guilty. And
it was like the Jews in Rome. Like they're a little like in cahoots a bit.
Right, but how they crucified Jesus. Yeah.
That's crazy.
The Catholic writer David Hunt has claimed that as many as 3 million people were condemned by the Spanish Inquisition. Thankfully, contemporary scholarship, which has taken the time to actually meticulously go through the very well-kept records from the Inquisition, estimate that the total is much closer to about 3,000 over the course of 3 centuries. That's about 10 a year, which is pretty moderate compared to the nearly 80,000 killed for crimes as petty as theft under the reign of one Protestant King Henry VIII. And
whoa. Oh, why are you taking shots at the Protestants?
Catching straight.
Come on, Brian.
Man.
Gosh.
We've been too friendly with the Catholics lately.
He's cooking. No, I think that's an interesting point about the Inquisition. There's some crazy disparities in the numbers if that's accurate. 3,000 to 3 million. I don't know.
That's not enough.
I don't know. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And be sure to check out this video that YouTube is recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.